Hello.
Welcome back, guys.
It's 5 to 6, coming up to the 6-hour mark of broadcasting. Only another 30 to go. So before we have Sid Cordle join us, which will be very shortly, I thought we'd read a book. We might do one book like after each guest for now. So this book is called Who Are You? And do we know what age group this is targeted for?
It looks like perhaps primary school age.
For children under 36. Oh, sorry, not suitable for children under 36 months.
So basically from 3.
From 3. So it's called Who Are You? The Kids Guide. You see that? The Kids Guide to Gender Identity. Okay. So first page, this is a story about you. The important thing to remember is that you are the one who knows you best. So you've got a nice little rainbow going on there, of course. Okay. Your parents don't know anything about you. You know all about you. When babies are born, people ask, is it a boy, is it a girl? Oh, some very confused people there. Very confused. Even the dog looks confused.
He does, I was just going to say that.
I started on the animals anyway, but we'll get to that another time. Babies can't talk, so grown-ups make a guess by looking at their bodies. This is the sex assigned to you at birth, male or female. Sometimes people get confused with gender, but gender is much more than the body you were born in. So then we got maybe.
So how you feel is more important than factual reality then, in other words.
Yeah, facts don't matter.
No.
Okay, so as babies grow into kids, they start to know what they like and don't like. This is your personal expression, what you like, how you dress and act. These are so many ways to express yourself. What you like can change as you grow up, or even from day to day. Children running around.
Little boy in a tutu.
Little boy in a tutu.
Very subliminally laid.
Yeah. Okay, what do you like? And then we've got all different toys, the bookshelf. Oh look, and then we've got tutus and stuff hanging up on the washing lines. Kids know a lot about themselves. They know what they are by how they feel inside. This is your identity, who you feel like inside, who you know yourself to be. This can also change as you grow up, or change even from day to day. Your gender is just one part of your identity, who makes you you. Any comments on that? No?
Basically, again, isn't it? It's just saying that it's more important you feed.
So here we go. Some people say there are only 2 genders, but there are really many genders. You are who you say you are because you know best. For some people, the grown-ups guessed right about their body and their gender. This is called cisgender, when somebody's identity matches their sex assigned at birth.
Assigned at birth, I can't
It's just,
assigned at birth.
And for the same people,
they guessed it.
Yeah. For the same people, there are more than just 2 choices. There are just a few words people use: trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, transgender, gender neutral, neutrous,
agender as well.
Bigender, third gender, two-spirit. What?
I don't even know.
Okay, two-spirit gender.
Still though, that's
whatever.
only about 10.
That's only about 10.
63.
And there are even more words people are using to describe their experience. This is called the gender spectrum. There are lots of ways to be a boy. There are lots of ways to be a girl. There are lots of ways to be a kid. Be who you are.
Empowering them.
And then we've got the guide to grown-ups.
Yeah, they've even got a guide to grown-ups.
And page-by-page discussion points.
Because they don't think you
additional
know your own
resources about the gender wheel. Well,
these are littered in libraries, in schools, and in just your local library. And like
nonsense. Go and put these in the comedy section of your library, or even the crime section.
I put it in the crime
section. It's a joke, and they're coming for your children, not just not the children in Wales.
I tell you what, we should have put on there as well. Remember the video I did when Christy had gone to Cardiff Library and she had taken a load of photos?
Yes.
That video I did, it's up on our Rumble. It's on the Tactics Rumble.
Oh, if Rick's listening.
What are my kids reading?
What are my kids reading? If Rick's listening in, I'm sure he'll grab it. Well, I think we have Sid Cordle with us, and I am so delighted that he's joined us today. Sid's from
dear, we've got a blinding light.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know how.
Very symbolic.
Maybe we could have a few words from the Lord and yourself to start us off.
Right,
and we've had some lovely donations. Thank you very much to Eamon, Rosie, Fiona, Tim, Nigel Thorne. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right.
Probably can't see me for the dazzling light.
Well, we got dazzling lights this end as well, so you're all right, Sid. As long as it's okay with you and not frustrated you in any way, of course.
No, okay. Well, I think I don't know whether that's any good or not.
A bit better.
Is that a bit better?
That is a little bit better, yeah.
The sun will probably go in a minute.
Yeah, it won't last long.
How are you doing, Sid?
Well, believe it or not, I've just been outdoor knocking. I've been outdoor knocking since about 11 o'clock this morning. I did stop out. I rang up a guy that I knew and I said, can I come round to your house for lunch? As one does. And he said, wow, he said, I've just got a prophetic meeting in my house. He said, some people have called off. He said, and lunch is coming in 3 minutes. He said, come round.
Nice.
This is Holy Spirit. It'll be privileged to have you here.
So Sid, this agenda, you are the leader of the Christian People's Alliance.
Yeah.
What are you finding and seeing in the local Christian communities at the moment with regards to this?
Okay, well, I've been doing a lot of door knocking over the last and leafleting over the last 2 weeks or so. And interestingly enough, what I'm saying on the doorstep is, hello, I'm from Christian People's Alliance. I'm one of the candidates in the local elections. We're standing on a platform of no more building on the edge of Hitchin because we haven't got infrastructure in place. And we're also concerned about a number of moral issues, the most important of which is the teaching of relationship and sex education in schools, which we think is unacceptable. And parents should be more involved and have a say in the process. That's what I'm saying on the doorstep. One lady responded and said, I'm a teacher and I have to teach this stuff and I'm extremely uncomfortable. They have enough pornography on the internet without having it rammed down their throats at school. That was a teacher.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So they're confirming that pornography is being shown in school as well as the education.
It must be secondary school she was talking about, but I mean, quite honestly, it shocked me. But I mean, it confirmed that we're absolutely on the right lines when we're objecting to this stuff. Because if a teacher who's teaching it is saying, I'm extremely uncomfortable having to teach this stuff, you know that there is an issue. It's not just, somebody's made it up or, it's or you're just overreacting. If a teacher doesn't want to teach it and feels very uncomfortable having been forced to teach it, that there's an issue here.
Yeah,
and
a big one.
And another lady said to me, I've got 2 girls, 8 and 10, and they came home this week and she said they were telling me things I didn't even know till I was 20 about things that homosexuals do when they have sex and things like this. It's like, what? 8 and 10 being taught in schools the way homosexuals perform sex acts.
I know. It is. It's frightening while they're actually teaching them in those schools, and it is awareness that needs to be raised from that point of view.
And this is, I'm not. All I'm doing is saying we're concerned about it, and this is the response I'm getting, and it's amazing. An awful lot of people are saying, "Yes, I agree. I'm very concerned about it too." I mean, obviously, some people are saying, "Oh, I think there's nothing wrong with it," but those are people who are New Age liberals anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it is a spiritual battle going on at the moment, Sid, is it
Oh
not?
yes.
I mean, we're looking
Oh
at
yes.
literally Sodom and Gomorrah playing out right now.
Oh yes. Massive, massive spiritual battle, and it's a spiritual battle for us as well in the CPA. I mean, really. I mean, you'll be surprised at the number of people who've said, "Oh yeah, I'll come and help you," and it's like, "Oh, sorry, something's cropped up. I can't come." It's like, "Oh, okay." So, but you just have to push through it all and just keep going and not give up. And at the beginning of the process, I was looking for candidates, and the numbers of people who were saying to me, "Oh, I totally support you. I'm fully behind what you're standing for, but no, I'm sorry, I can't stand as a candidate." It's just like, oh,
yeah, there's a lot of fear among people, isn't there, as well, to speak out on certain things because, well, they get cancelled or attacked, or it is a lot of deterrent then to speak up, because most people don't agree with this. Most people don't agree with this.
But we're on the right lines, because if this was something that wasn't under attack and no one really cared about, or no one was bothered about, or people on the doorstep were saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not bothered about that," people aren't saying I'm not bothered about that. People are either saying, "Yeah, I'm very concerned," or "No, I'm not. No, I'm not concerned." But I think children should be taught this sort of stuff, which we get occasionally. But it's very few people are saying, "I know nothing about it," or
Yeah.
So it's a big issue. But by the way, in when you went to court, or when Welsh mums went to court, when the Welsh mums went to court, I believe one of the things that the judge said is, "Why don't you stand for election on these issues?" And so that is an issue. That is something we need to talk about, because we can obviously facilitate that whole process. I have in the past, in a previous incarnation, organised candidates throughout the whole of Wales for the Christian People's Alliance. That was, I think, in 2007. But I wasn't then leader of the party. But we did have a candidate in every region of Wales for the Christian People's Alliance. So we can do it again. Yeah. And I think, if this issue is still live come the next election, then I think we could well be worth sitting down and talking about how we can get candidates on the ballot paper and get this issue. Because once you're on the ballot paper, and you can, in a general election, you can put a leaflet through every door. Via the post office.
That's the issue that there is. It's having the boots on the ground to be able to do that.
Yeah,
no, you can do it.
Like Kimberly's just pushed solid. The whole team of PCP Wales are just pushed solid, because the government. You've got to look at the legal team that they have behind them. How many solicitors and barristers came out of that court that day for the Welsh government, and who came out for us? Paul, yes, Diamond, and that was it. And obviously,
I understand. I mean, it's quite expensive. I mean, it's £500 per candidate. But once you pay the deposit and you've got leaflets printed, the Royal Mail will put them out for you in a general election. So you don't need boots on the ground to put the leaflets through the doors.
Yeah,
you just because you've got that. Yeah.
To every house, don't they?
But I mean, that's what I just was saying about their legal team and what these 5 parents are. This is what we're up against. They're up against the belly of the beast. They've got God knows how many barristers compared to the one. And
ours is special though.
Ours is. I mean, this is special. Yeah, the whole movement is special as well.
Come on, yes, I know Paul. I've been to see him at his house, and God bless him. He is a great man of God, and it's great you've got him on side. Yeah, God bless him.
Good man.
And of course, he's also very experienced now. He's done a lot of these campaigns. He's done a lot of these sort of court cases. Yeah. But but anyway, it's certainly something worth talking about and saying, look, come on, do we want to go down this line? Is this something we ought to be doing in order to raise the issue? And I'll be quite happy to make relationship and sex education the major issue on the campaign leaflet, and then that way you can put a leaflet through every door in Wales,
God, that would be powerful.
Something to look at.
Yeah. So where are we going now? So Sid, let's talk more about this agenda, the whole satanic feel to it, behind it, because it is very dark. These people, we do know, they do these rituals to Satan live on stage. Then, this is really the devil's work. And maybe we can just discuss this a bit further, Sid, and you can talk us through how Satan works.
Okay, well, it's important to understand that we're not just coming across people that have got different ideas or a different approach, but their approach is equally valid with our approach, as it were. We're involved in a massive spiritual battle where this is a spiritual agenda to take on Christianity and to take on Christian values. It all stems from New Age liberalism, which we've talked about before. But the whole New Age agenda it was developed. It didn't come originally, but it was certainly developed by Alice Bailey in the 1920s, who wrote a whole series of books. And she didn't beat around the bush. Her printing press was the Luciferian printing press, and she worshipped Satan. It's and her objective, her goal was to destroy Judeo-Christian moral values. And she said very clearly, we've got to get the children under 10. There's no point in talking to older people. Older people have made their own minds up. You'll not change their minds. But children under 10, they're malleable. We can change them. And if we change them, over time, we'll change society. Because they'll get older. And if we can, so we've got to target the children and control the children. And that was what she was saying in the 1920s. And it's amazing the extent, really, to which, it may have taken 100 years to happen, but it's all happening now exactly as she wanted it to happen. They are absolutely targeting the children, and it is, as you say, satanic. And we have to know that. But of course, when we realize it's satanic, we don't have to run away and say, oh, it's satanic, there's nothing we can do, this is terrible. It's quite the opposite. We have to take authority in the name of Jesus and know that we have authority in the name of Jesus over the whole agenda, because God is stronger than Satan. But we have to deal with it as a spiritual battle, and we have to use spiritual weapons, the most important of which is the weapon of prayer. Absolutely, we need to get church leaders on side. By the way, what's happening at the moment in the Church of England is just terrible. But what's happened there?
Yeah, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, can you talk us through that? Because I know there's bits and pieces that have been said, but I don't know the full story.
Okay, well, part of the Alice Bailey's agenda, point 10, was to get the church to endorse these changes. That was part of her agenda. And what's happened in the Church of England in particular, is that it's basically been infiltrated by Marxists. That's what's happened. A lot of these, and what they've done, what Marxists do, is to get control of the key levers of power. So, for instance, the person in the Church of England who is responsible for appointing bishops is a homosexual. And you think, how on earth did he get into that position? But they've got into the position now for quite a while where they're appointing the bishops. And I think it came home to me quite starkly the extent to which the bishops are not on our side. I mean, for a start, I was at the National Prayer Breakfast a couple of years back, which I normally go to every year. Believe it or not, it was actually started by a cousin of mine who went to the Washington Prayer Breakfast, Sid Cordle his name, and said we need something like this in the UK. And the speaker at the time, Speaker Thomas, who was a Christian, said, "Yep, we'll have the prayer breakfast in Parliament, and I'll sponsor it." So we've had this prayer breakfast in Parliament for quite a long time, and I've been going to most of them. So I'm sat there at the National Prayer Breakfast, 750 people in the Palace of Westminster. Normally, you get the leaders of the opposition turn up because they all want to. Sorry, I've got some people that just arrived. We're going to have to close the door. Hold on a second.
Sid knows his stuff. He's been involved with the Christian People's Alliance for quite a long time as a candidate, and he's doing good work.
Sorry about that. Yes, I've got my
I'm just going to do a quick fundraising update very quickly whilst you're talking.
Okay, yeah, go on.
So 8,384. So 2,384 so far with the podcast-athon so far, and we are into hour 6. 30 to go.
6 hours.
So at some stage you want to know what I'm going to pledge. It's not going to be as much as last time, I'm afraid, but I've got something to pledge.
No, thank you very much,
thank
Sid.
you so much, Sid. That's very kind. But let's continue on with what's going on with the church, because it's vital, and then we can talk about getting people donating.
Okay, so I was at the National Prayer Breakfast, sitting there, in the Palace of Westminster, 750 people. The leaders, a lot of MPs there, leaders of the opposition tend to come just to, because they think it's quite an important event to get people on side. And the guest speaker is Sarah Mullally, the Bishop of London. And Sarah Mullally is addressing the National Prayer Breakfast, and she says, "Jesus doesn't tell me what to believe." Thinking, what? I'll tell you, at the drop of a hat, I could have stood up and challenged her. But I didn't want to be arrested and spend the rest of the time in jail and never be allowed to go again.
But yeah,
well, it's happened to me before. So I decided to control myself and not say anything. But maybe in retrospect, if I'd have stood up and politely said, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" If Jesus doesn't tell you what to believe, who does? Maybe I could have got away with that, and and I wouldn't have been thrown out. But as it was at the time, obviously just something that came out and hit me. And when it came out and hit me, I was angry, literally. And if I stood up and said something, it wouldn't have been a polite question, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so the infiltration then, I guess, isn't it?
But you think the Bishop of London, Jesus doesn't tell me what to believe. So what are you? Who does tell you what to believe then? Karl Marx, I presume. And it's just like, I'm afraid, when it came up to this recent same-sex marriage vote, almost all the bishops, were saying that they were in favour of blessing same-sex marriages. There were only about 2 or 3 bishops that weren't. And here in Hitchin, I had my hustings in 2017 here in Hitchin. The person that chaired it was a lady, vicar, who was head of the church, which is literally just a stone's throw from where I live, St Mark's Church in Hitchin. And they engineered it so that there was no discussion on moral issues in the hustings. But at the end of the hustings, we were all allowed to sum up and, what we were standing for. So I said, the issues that we're standing on haven't been discussed tonight, with the exception of caring for the poor. But the other issues, like the importance of marriage and the sanctity of life, haven't been discussed. And she said, "Right, that's it, time's up." I said, "Well, I'm just saying that the issues we're standing on haven't been discussed, and these issues are important." And she said, "Turn the microphone off." Anyway, that lady's now been made a bishop. And she's head of a tiny church. So, other people like Paul Harcourt, for instance, who's the head of New Wine, or head of a massive church in London, never made a bishop or anything, yet taken on major responsibility. Evangelical church leaders heading up massive churches, churches that go to over 1,000 people attending, never get made bishops because they're evangelical. The only people made bishops are people that are liberal.
Well, and they go towards the agenda, the whole agenda is just part of it, isn't it? To be able to push what what we're seeing in school, which is an absolute nightmare at the moment. It really is bad.
And also Justin Welby, when he was appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, it was the turn for an evangelical, that they were looking for an evangelical who supported same-sex marriage. And they found Justin Welby as the only evangelical they could find who supported same-sex marriage. That's why he was made Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah, it happens everywhere, doesn't it? With media and everything. As long as you do, what you're supposed to do then and push the narrative, then you're going to end up in very influential positions, I would say.
We did a lot of the Archbishop that had, when Lou Collins UK first launched, I had Gigi researching, and she did unbelievable stuff with Wellesby, who was very close to Charles.
Yes, well, yes,
For
he is.
him, yeah. There was
And
some
he's
really
also,
dark stuff about him. I'm just trying to actually find it
yes,
so I'll put it in the comments for people to share. Oh, it looks like my old website's down. That's
Oh.
interesting. LouCollins.uk is down, by the way, Rick. Just let you know.
yeah. So absolutely. I mean, Welby is. It's something else about Welby is he's also very into working with Muslims. Which, when you think that the Quran says that Jesus wasn't crucified, and if you say he's the Son of God, then you'll go to hell. Then how can a Christian say I'm happy to work with Muslims? I've got no problem with Islam. I mean, it's obvious that Islam and Christianity are diametrically opposed, as well as
But
the
the
whole
thing is,
issue.
I must interject there because at the moment, this subject is really bringing together people
Oh, yes,
from
that's
all
true.
walks of
Yes.
life,
Common
and it's
sense.
amazing how the support for this campaign. Because I've been born again Christian. I'm quite open with that. But what I'm noticing is the support from the Muslim community about towards this education, and they really have stood up and fought against it. And
Yeah, that's true. No,
I
absolutely,
have been
true.
getting very frustrated because we the Christian community should be up in force as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I'm sorry.
As well as that, and this is such an important campaign, and we're finding common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry, because on the doorstep, if a Muslim comes and I talk to them about relationship and sex education, invariably they say, absolutely, totally, I totally agree with you.
So this is a good thing that there's common ground.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about the children, and as I say, yes, 5G is very important. The Medazzle, I can't say it in full because it's been taken down off YouTube. All of these subjects are equally important, but every single day, this education is being
drenched,
given over to our children. We haven't got time. We have to talk about it. It's so uncomfortable, and it's not a nice subject. But we've put all this energy in talking about the jibby jab, the thing, everything else.
Yeah.
Let's do a push for the children, because there are groups in the UK that are doing it. It's by chance that Kat and I got linked, and I've started on this campaign with them, and Kimberly and the parents have got further than anybody else. They've got it into a court of law. They've got it in black and white that this education is a global rollout. They're going to get they're going to take it all the way. So it is so important that everybody really does get behind this campaign and raise awareness. Let's put just a little bit of our energy talking about all the other issues into the children.
Yes.
Sorry,
you're right.
I ranted there.
You're right. Well, look, I would just say that actually Muslims respect you more when you study their religion and you respect the differences than when you try and pretend you're all on the same page. Because no, we're not all on the same page, but we are quite rightly, as you say, on this issue.
Yeah.
Because Muslims respect marriage between a man and a woman. Absolutely, it's part of their beliefs. And actually, in Islam, paganism, which is what basically New Age liberalism is attacked far more in the Quran than Christianity is. The Quran actually says that nearest to the believers are the Christians. So. Anyway.
Yeah. And it has seemed to work. It has worked in uniting everybody, and with common sense people who are looking out for children's protection, and
yes.
This is so highly dangerous, because as we know, it's just changing society's attitudes and behaviours all over the place, and it's a really when they've got it littered everywhere, it's just a really dangerous time for kids. One generation is already sort of being massively affected by this, and I would say a further as well, and we've got to try and stop it and put it in reverse somehow, which is what this is all part of, and obviously raising awareness, raising the funds for the 5 parents who are taking the Welsh Government. But with that comes awareness as well, and that's the if enough awareness was raised, I don't think we'd be in this position, would we? Wouldn't be needing to do this podcast, because we would have sorted this out ages
No, that's
ago.
right, but it's frustrating to me that the church isn't more on side, really.
Yeah, you'd think you really would. They'd be in there and totally up in arms about it.
That's
And
right,
in fact,
because
what was interesting, sorry Sid, what was interesting is the the Muslims and the imams all wrote to the court, and that was taken into consideration, didn't they? That they didn't want this, and there's been no thought. There's been nothing about people's religious beliefs, and there was a time when that was they were all for this. So listening to to the other minority races in the country, religions in the country, but they've turned a blind eye on it.
But it's quite interesting. You see, when I'm talking on the doorstep, what I'm saying is that in schools, that schools should be educating pupils with different points of view, and that is education. It's not education to say all of you have got to support LGBT, and if you don't support LGBT, you're going to be in big trouble. Which by the way, I mean, there was one teacher who was actually taped saying exactly that to a classroom, and a pupil taped him saying it.
I heard it. I think I listened to the one you're talking about, where he actually has a go at him, doesn't he? And says, because he says there's only two genders or whatever, and he just has this big long rant at them, and they're only, well, they're in secondary school, but they're just teenagers, and they have to listen to the private life then as well of the professional in front of them. There should be a professional relationship between a teacher and a child, but he was spewing out all of his past and everything, it is shocking. That's not the only time I've seen videos of one in Scotland where they took him out, they kicked him out. This was a couple of years ago, and he actually recorded the teacher. He had kicked him out because he said there was only two genders, but then he followed him into the other classroom, this teacher, and he was shouting at him in his face like this man, and he's recording him because he said there was only two genders.
It's unacceptable. You see, education is about teaching different points of view.
Yeah.
I've got no problem at all. I mean, people say to me sometimes on the doorstep, you want to indoctrinate people with Christian values. I say, not at all. Not at all. I said, what I want is children to be told, these are New Age liberal values and these are Christian values. Christian values are that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and you shouldn't have sex before marriage. Your sex should be reserved for inside marriage, and you should be faithful to your husband and wife for the whole of their life. These are Christian values. New Age liberal values that you can have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, man on man, woman on woman, as long as you wear a condom, and anything goes. And that's the New Age liberal value. But children should be taught, these are New Age liberal values. These are Christian values. It can also be taught, these are Muslim values. A man can have up to 4 wives, according to the Quran. But Muslims obviously still at the same time believe very much in the importance of marriage between a man and a woman, and homosexuality is strongly condemned in Islam. So but you can actually say these are New Age liberal values, these are Christian values, these are Muslim values, whatever. That is education, because then children are learning different values. And then children should be told, you've got to make up your own mind as to which values you wish to adopt. Now, instead of that approach, which is education, children are being told, these are New Age liberal values, LGBT, and these are the values you have to accept. And if you don't accept these values, you're going to be in big trouble. And that's not education, that's propaganda.
Yeah, and indoctrination.
Total indoctrination.
But what I was going to say as well, you see, because with these problems going on in the church, when you say, well, children should be taught these are Christian values, you say, well, that's not what the Church of England believes. And you sort of think, oh, yeah, so that is a problem. But all you can come back to is to say, yeah, but this is what Jesus taught. And a Christian follows the teaching of Jesus. So you can only come to the conclusion that what's going on in the Church of England is that they've departed from the teaching of Jesus. So they're now Christians in name only. I call them Tinos, because they're no longer true Christians. They're only Christians in name. They call themselves Christians, but they're not.
Every area of society of humanity's life has been infected with this and corrupted with this agenda. In everything, we can't breathe fresh air. Every single part of our lives are attacked. There is nowhere that they haven't gone to attack these people, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, messing with the food we eat, it's just, and now with our children.
Yeah.
Well, it's the acceptance of paedophilia, isn't it?
Is the acceptance of paedophilia, exactly.
Well, that's something else that really worries me, which I've seen some signs of this week, actually. If
we've been talking
anybody
about
follows
that.
what we put on social media, you've got a situation where in Minnesota, I think it was, there's been a move by the Democrats to change the law to remove paedophilia from the whole human rights legislation. So basically, where in the past it says anyone who's a paedophile is against human rights, they now want to delete that. It's no longer against human rights.
Yeah, they put in their little steps in place. That was the end game. It's the last taboo, paedophilia, incest, and bestiality, and that's where we are now.
Yeah, and it's very concerning. But also, I think a lot of what's going on in schools is almost grooming.
It is grooming.
It is grooming.
Yeah, because once you sexualize children, and and say sex is fine, between you're teaching a child of 7 and 8.
No, 3. You're teaching children with 3 and 4 about masturbation and touching themselves.
Yeah, so if you're teaching tiny children sexual things, about sex, presumably you're actually encouraging them to engage in it.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly it. They're teaching the children about consent rather than saying no. Yeah. This is the whole point.
Yeah. So it then comes along and say, if you consent to it, if an adult comes along and says to you, I want to have sex with you, and you consent to it, that's fine.
That's fine. Exactly. That's exactly where they're going with it, and we have to raise awareness to stop it.
I don't know if you heard, Sid. We talked about it a bit earlier, and we will mention it again. The Channel 4 program, Naked Education, that was out on a Wednesday evening at 7:00. Yeah. I didn't see it. I saw all the reports, but full front nudity of naked men and women in front of a group of I think 13-year-olds, 12 or 13-year-olds. 7:00 of the evening. I reported it to Ofcom. I looked on Ofcom after a couple of days, and it wasn't even on the front page with the complaints. There was nothing there of it. I wrote to Channel 4, and Channel 4 said everybody there had consent in doing this, and proper safeguarding was put in place. This is like 7:00 of an evening on Channel 4.
Yeah, it's nonsense. But it's nonsense. It's going on in the classroom. It was nonsense. It's going on in the classroom. It's nonsense. That sort of thing is happening in a classroom. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely terrible. And you see that it's right that parents should be saying, this is not acceptable to have things like this taught in a classroom with my children there. And, the other thing, by the way, if you don't mind me talking spiritually for a minute, the other thing which I think is very hopeful is the fact that God will use the children to communicate to the teachers their disgust. And it's interesting, there was a prophecy given by Jean Darnell that God will be giving the children prophecies and visions. And we were actually praying the other day that sort of thing will happen now, literally now at this time, that children are basically going with great boldness into the classroom and saying, I've heard God speak to me, and God has said to me, whatever. And, I've had a vision. I had a vision of Jesus, and Jesus came to me and Jesus said, whatever. And literally influencing the classroom and influencing the teachers, so the teachers are literally unable to confront what the children are saying, because what they're saying is so spiritually powerful. Now, I actually believe that is one of the biggest hopes in what's taking place at the moment, because no one can remove the children from the classroom. Well, they can. I suppose they can say, what you've done is unacceptable, so we're removing you from the classroom. But if they do that, then I think the whole class will be up in uproar. But if the children are literally having genuine visions and coming forward with genuine prophecies that are powerful, then I believe that can change the whole atmosphere in the classrooms.
Yeah. Kim's commented, we need faith, we do not need establishments.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Paul Fitch has come out with God. Goes in a few hundred years down the line, archaeologists will still only be digging up the remains of either male or female skeletons.
Well, of course. Of course. I mean, absolutely. But
You can't change it.
No.
But Jesus had a lot to say about children. Let the children come to me, don't hinder them. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And children are very precious. And I believe God is at work here and will protect the children, will also use godly children to touch the ungodly. I really believe, and I believe that's one of the biggest hopes.
Thank you so much, Sid. We cannot thank you enough for coming on today and sparing a little bit of time. And people can go to the Christian People's Alliance.net, is it?
Yes, .net, www.cpa.net.
.net.
No.
Thank you so much, Sid, and thank you to your community who have, stood up and really helped PCP Wales.
I haven't given you my pledges yet. Is my time up? Is it?
It is soon, yes, because we've got another guest and we've got a little something to play out beforehand.
Okay, well, I'll give you my pledges. So, the Christian People's Alliance is pledging £250.
Oh.
And we've had a member of the CPA, Carol Valinajad, who is donating £50, but she has requested that her petition should be put up, if that's possible. So I put it in chat. Her petition is for teaching creation science in schools. So children aren't only taught evolution, they're also taught creation science.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough, Sid. Absolutely, well done.
Thank you so much,
Sid, and everybody within the Christian People's Alliance. We really, really do appreciate it so much.
Okay, so that's £300 you've got from us.
Thank you so much, Sid.
Sorry, it's not a bit more.
No, honestly,
no, it's
that's
fabulous.
Really
Thank you so much.
Okay, God bless you.
God bless you, Sid. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
That was good, wasn't it?
That was good. Yeah, we had Sid Cordle there, guys.
Go on.
Go on.
We've got the wonderful Alex Thompson coming up in just 10 minutes time, but I do think Rick's got a little video so we can just freshen up quickly, and Rick's got a 10-minute video and we'll be back with Alex Thompson. We can't wait.